My wife's ex-husband called and demanded that I pay for my stepson's college in full, or he'd take me to court for custody. So I told him he better start saving his money, because I, 45, male, have been married to my wife, 35, female, for about 6 years, and honestly, I have never been happier. I was a little skeptical regarding our relationship in the beginning when I found out that she had a kid from her previous marriage, but as soon as I saw the kid, I was gone. I had never really wanted my own kids until I met my stepson. He was the sweetest little kid, and I knew then and there that I was going to marry his mother one day. I had told my wife that I didn't want to have children, but I would love her child like my own, and I tried to fulfill that promise every day. She didn't want more kids, so it worked out perfectly. Before we got married, my wife had told me all about her ex-husband and his shenanigans, but he hadn't bothered us at all. So I didn't think he would be a problem in our lives. Of course, I knew that we would have to share the kid with him, but that was the only thing that I had comprehended. I didn't think he would have any space in our lives other than that. So, it was kind of a bummer when he kept putting his nose in our business. The kid was 11 when we first started living together, but we had known each other before that. After I got married to his mother, he asked me if he could call me dad since he always called his biological father Papa. I was overjoyed that he was comfortable enough that he wanted to call me dad. So, of course, I said yes. We were a nice little happy family for a while until my wife's ex-husband started butting in. I think he was insecure because my stepson was happier at home with me and his mom than he was with his papa. He even said it a few times, kids don't have any filters. They tell it like it is. Of course, he liked living with us better. We were a family, we had family traditions, and he had his favorite toys at our place. His papa was a single man, and he was sometimes so busy with work that he didn't give his son any time. It was natural that he wanted to stay with us, but neither I nor my wife even insinuated that he would keep away from his papa. But the fact that his kid was much happier with me put a dent in his fragile little ego. He stated that he was acting like in a hole all of a sudden. He would pick fights with me for no reason. I would usually not engage with him, but as time went on, he started getting aggressive. He snapped at the kid a few times, and then I decided that I wasn't going to sit and take his tantrums. I told him to back off and let us live our lives like we wanted to. He threatened custody a few times and my wife would get really scared. So I tried my best to keep my calm. I didn't want to be the reason my wife lost her kid, and I didn't want to lose him either. I adored that kid like my own, and it wasn't his fault that his papa was a grade A hole. We tried to keep peace for the sake of the kid, but as the years went on, the animosity grew. We stopped talking to each other. We would just drop the kid off at his house and he would do the same. What could have been a really nice co-parenting relationship was effectively ruined by that man because he couldn't fathom that his son had another father figure in his life. One other thing that happened was that he stopped paying for anything kid-related. He didn't pay for his school, clothes, or toys. I mean, I was happy to provide for him, and I did provide for him. But as a father, he had some duties that he neglected. He got so used to me and my wife paying for everything that he stopped doing it altogether. My wife did talk to him about that, but he just brushed it off saying that he would pay for things that mattered. I don't know what those things were, but we let it go for now. I really didn't want to have a conversation with him, which always turned into arguments. I was sick of his presence in my life as it was, so I really couldn't care less that he wasn't paying for his own kid. I had enough money to take care of my family. It was honestly a little sad to see how eager he was to involve himself in our lives. I understood it for what it was. He was insecure that his wife had found someone who loved her and was happy with her new life. While he was still single and bitter, he had been a horrible husband to her, but I still tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. Being a bad husband doesn't mean he was a bad father either. So I really didn't have a problem with him spending time with the kid alone. Sometimes he would say inappropriate things in front of the kid and he would have to tell him to watch them. But other than that, it was fine. He didn't spend that much time with his son, even when he had him. Even after all the animosity between us, we made it work. We co-parented as best as we could because that was best for my stepson. As the kid grew older, he started to spend less time with his papa, and we couldn't say anything. Teenagers don't listen to their parents, so it was his choice where he wanted to spend his time. His papa didn't see it that way. He accused me and my wife of keeping the kid away from him on purpose. We literally had nothing to do with it. He was growing up and we just couldn't make his choices for him anymore. It was his decision where he wanted to stay and he chose the majority of the time our home. He still went to his papa's place, but the visits were far and few. I told him to spend some time with his father, but he was adamant on staying with us. He told me that his father was rarely home anyway, so he had to sit alone and watch TV. He even told me that his father doesn't care about him, but didn't elaborate any further. I felt like he was hiding something, but he was clearly not ready to talk about it. So I didn't want to force him. My wife and I agreed that we would let him make his own decisions about whether he wanted to see his father or not. Of course, my wife's ex was being a baby about it because he couldn't fathom that we were letting the kid make his own decisions. You have to give teenagers a choice in their lives. I trusted him to make the decision that was best for him. In the following years, he drifted apart from his father a lot, but there were still visits. He probably felt bad about not going to his father's place, so he still made an appearance every 2 months. His father stopped nagging us after a while. He didn't really care about the kid anyway. He just wanted the same amount of time with him because he was in some sick contest with me and my wife. When my stepson started high school, there was a lot of talk about college. His school wanted to prepare him for college, so we talked about where he wanted to go and what he wanted to study. He didn't want his father to feel left out, so he went over to his place to talk about college with him as well. When he came back, he was a little quieter than usual, but he assured me that he was fine when I asked. About a week or two after that visit, I got a call from his father. I usually ignore his calls, but since my stepson was with him that day, I picked up in case it was about the kid. He didn't greet me or anything. He went straight to the point, and that point was my stepson's college tuition. He told me that my stepson had been talking about college for a couple of weeks like I didn't already know that. I asked him what he wanted and he told me that he wouldn't be paying the tuition and I should better start saving money for it. He just pissed me off so much. I told him that we would divide the tuition. He has to pay half of it and the other half will be covered by me and my wife. He said that he wouldn't pay anything because I stole his son from him when I married his ex-wife. So now it was my responsibility to pay for his college. The excuses he was making were laughable, so that's what I did. He didn't like that, so he got down to the threatening, like always. He said that he would get custody and steal his son right back if I caused any problems. He was getting on my nerves. I knew he was a joke of a human, but treating his son like some kind of bait to get back at me and my wife was a new low, even for him. I told him that it was equally his responsibility to make sure his son got a good college education. Threatening custody isn't going to cut it this time because I won't back off either. He either does the right thing or gets out of all our lives for good. That was the deal I was ready to make, but he was still yelling about the court and custody. After what felt like hours of trying to make sense of him, I finally gave up. I told him that if he wanted to play this ridiculous game, then I would see him in court. So he better lawyer up and start saving some money. I hung up on him and went back to my day. It wasn't until my stepson came back home that I realized that he was pissed at me. I tried to talk to him and urged him to tell me what was going on. He got pretty angry at me and told me that I didn't love him enough to pay for his college and that's why I was fighting with his father about it. I felt so bad that it nearly knocked me off my feet. I tried to assure him that I loved him and was only trying to protect him, but teenagers don't listen to reason easily. He brushed me off and gave me the cold shoulder every time I tried to have a conversation with him. I felt like I let him down just because I wanted his father to do the right thing.